morning, everyone. Welcome to a Brilliant Businesses podcast. My name's Nick Bryant, and I'm really pleased this morning to be with Dylan Miles. Good morning, Dylan.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm all right. You doing all right?
Yeah, nice to see you.
Now, we are in Dylan's showroom, which is actually got some of probably the most prestigious cars in the world in there right now. It's a beautiful place. We're in Tunbridge Wells, down on London Road. Now, Dylan is a purveyor of rare automobiles and motorcycles. A little bit about what's going on the website, which is Dylan specialises in the sale of the world's most desirable classic and contemporary sports cars and motorcycles, fueled by unrivalled passion, integrity and lifelong experience within the international collect car market. That's pretty special, mate. And there's a lot going on in here. But let's go back to the start and tell us how you got to be amongst these beautiful cars.
Well, I was lucky. I was born into it. So I come from a motoring family. My father is a petrol head and a lifelong car fan. But he restores vintage motorcycles for a living. So I was born into that now. And I don't know what happened. My first word was car.
You said
and it just suddenly clicked. So basically it's been an addiction from the start, really. And I learned to read with classic and sports car and Aston Martin books and all this stuff. And so I don't know. I actually genuinely can't explain it.
It's just always been in your blood, I guess. If your father was like it,
that's it. And in fact, I'm probably more into it now than he is, to be honest. But he's done it for a long time.
You mentioned when we met a few weeks ago about you were working in Sotheby's and places like that. Is that good grounding for this?
Oh yeah, So I mean, where I am today is the culmination of 20 odd years. Earning my stripes, so to speak, within the trade, and there's a sort of pathway that in the old car world. Obviously, it's quite a sort of relatively closed industry. I mean, most people when they go to school, they don't say, "I want to be a classic car dealer." No. When I grow up, for a classic bike dealer. Or whatever. So, and as such, obviously, it's quite a niche thing. So, the way that you have to obviously earn your stripes, and a lot of people do that by starting at auction house, and then they build up their contacts. And I did it, a fairly sort of conventional route to that now.
Not cars like this. You've worked.
Always. Yeah.
Okay.
But it takes a long time to understand the cars and to understand the people and to understand the industry and how to do things, how not to do things.
Yeah.
And all of that, like any profession, you have to do your sort of apprenticeship. And there's no quick route to it.
No, it's a lifelong experience. So when did you come to have this building?
This building came about, it wind the clock back to April 22.
Yeah.
I was living in Tunbridge Wells across the road, and I kept walking past this place, and I thought, God, wouldn't it be great to restore it back to what it was intended to, because it was obviously built in 1909 as a car showroom.
Right.
And I saw a little to let sign, and I thought, blimey, I wonder if it's available. And within 24 hours, I'd agreed a deal in principle to take the place up without any idea of what the condition of the building was like, or what was ahead of me in terms of the preparation of it. But then I think if you think too much about stuff, sometimes you can prevent yourself from doing it. You can.
So. Yeah, I read a quote recently about don't worry about how you're going to just do it, just get on with it, go fit in first, and then work out afterwards.
That's generally how I live my life. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think in this instance, thankfully, it did work. But I always knew that this is a very important building. It's part of the history of the town and part of motoring history in general. Because it has, the more and more I've researched about it, the more wonderful stuff that I found, which is it's amazing, really. So I'm delighted that we did it. It wasn't an easy task,
right? Okay.
But it was hopefully the results speak for themselves.
Absolutely. So, what sort of cars do you deal with? Is it just certain brands or?
We deal almost all sports cars in general. So, I love sports cars. Appreciate other cars as well, but we focus quite a bit on Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And that's a marque that I'm probably probably the most knowledgeable about, because I've been very lucky to grow up around Aston Martins, and I just have a real affinity to them. But I also love Ferraris and Bentleys and Rolls Royces and all everything. I appreciate everything. And so I suppose you end up kind of throughout your career, you become known for certain marques, and I guess Aston's. But as you can see, we've got Ferrari in the showroom, we've got Jaguar, we've got GT40, Austin Healey, which is just sold. So there's. But I'd say it's more timing. Most of the cars we sell are probably pre-1990, not exclusively,
right?
But that, So, and I particularly like cars in the 50s and 60s and 70s,
Are these all your cars?
No, most of the cars in the showroom belong to clients.
Right.
We operate on a consignment basis. We also do own some of our own stock as well. But the way that it's a very simple process, and we're completely transparent. So let's say you want to give us your Aston Martin V8 to sell.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
We'll research the car and we'll determine what the accurate market value for the car is.
Yeah.
We'll then agree an asking price and a commission, which is a percentage dependent on the value. And then when we sell the car, we earn X percent, and the buyer and the seller both know where the car is going.
Right.
And it's all completely, everyone knows exactly what's happening, which I think is really important.
Yeah. That transparency, especially when you're dealing with clients of that sort of nature, or that sort of they're a different level, aren't they? You've got clients all over the world, I think.
We're very lucky to. We do a lot of. So Tunbridge Wells obviously is our headquarters, but it's what you see is a small window of what we actually do. And I've earned the respect, and I've built the relationship of clients overseas based on all the years prior working, for instance, with Sotheby's, where I did a lot of work in America, and we travelled all over the place. So that is very, very important grounding.
I think it's important that it's in Tunbridge Wells as well. It wouldn't work so much if it was in Gillingham or Chatham. No disrespect to those places, but Tunbridge Wells has got a nice.
Well, it's a lovely town, and it's got loads of history. But more importantly for me, this building has a real kind of rich automotive history, and that's something, whether it's in the Outer Hebrides or wherever, you know, to find a building that looks like this, that was built as a car showroom all that time ago and is still a car showroom, is almost unheard of today. And so it was like a sort of moral responsibility that I had, really, to kind of
bring it back to life.
You know, and it's brilliant. I mean, you know, the history we keep. I mean, I spend hours researching it. Well, hundreds of hours, but it's wonderful. I really enjoy the research, and that's the same with the products that we sell as well. I like researching histories of cars and bikes, and you find out all sorts of fascinating things. It's like a big puzzle, you know. And I never really liked puzzles as a kid, but automotive puzzles I quite enjoy.
Well, I guess if you haven't got that passion for it and that interest for it, you're not going to come across that way. You're not going to have that passion when you sell. But also with that, you learn so much about it, and you have to know a lot. You have to know your stuff to do what you do.
You do, but you never ever stop learning. And that's I mean, I'm constantly reading all the time and trying to learn. You know, because it never stops.
Okay.
You can't. You know, I don't think anyone could. You know, you never stop learning that. And there's stuff. And the interesting thing about a lot of the stuff that we deal with is that, for instance, with Aston Martin V8s, there are so many little different nuances that unless you're really into it, you wouldn't know. But I have to know that information in order to sell cars properly, and to also to authenticate them. And so it must be.
It wouldn't happen to you, but if a buyer comes in and knows more than you do about the car that you're selling, that's not so good. So
but to be fair, you know, a lot of.
Do you get that?
I mean, the type of cars we sell, they've researched them and they're educated on, because, you know, if you want to go and buy a classic of some sort, you will have thought about why you want to own it, and you will have done your research, or most instances people do. So we generally deal, you know, people who deal with it are educated and they know what they want. But I think they also enjoy working with us because we're passionate and we actually care about. You know,
what's the most expensive car you've sold?
Since I started my own business, probably just under €5 million.
Is it? Right.
But I've worked on prior to me starting my company, which is now in its 8th year, Dylan Miles Limited. When I worked for some of the auction houses and dealers were involved in cars that were $20 million plus deals.
Right. Okay.
So
And the most expensive Aston?
I don't know, actually. I have to think about that.
Big on the spot. Or the most exclusive. I mean, all your Astons are exclusive, aren't they? I mean,
they're
DB2s,
all different.
DB4s. I mean,
they're all different, and that's the great thing about that. I actually really enjoy is whenever we get one, learning about the different specifications and colours and all sorts of stuff. So they're all interesting in their own right. Some cars have more significant pedigree, i.e., they were raced by a certain person, or the specification is extremely rare. For instance, you know, if you have DB5 convertibles, are 123 cars, and I think 27 of them were left-hand drive.
Right.
So finding an original left-hand drive DB5 convertible, which we have sold, you know, things like that, and they, you know, the numbers get quite thin. I don't think people realise how rare some of these cars are.
No.
And bikes as well. You know, bikes.
Of course, bikes as well. And I guess the logbooks as well. You can see previous owners and who.
Well, you used to be able to, but because of the GDPR rules and things, the layout of V5s has now changed. But, you know, fortunately with most, if people own old cars and cherish them, they tend to keep paperwork, and so a lot of these cars have huge history files.
Yeah.
And actually, I enjoy rifling through them because you learn so much about where they've been, who they've been looked after by, and it's all part of understanding it all. So.
Yeah. And just moving on to another topic, you're going to arrange an event in August. We've got some information about that. I'm just going to reach for that to give it to you so you can tell us about it.
Okay. So here we are, the Royal Tunbridge Wells Festival of Motoring, the fourth horseless carriage exhibition.
Yeah.
Right, why is it called the fourth horseless carriage exhibition? So, a little historical fact. In 1895, the first ever public display of a motor car was held at the Agricultural Showground in Tunbridge Wells, which is about half a mile south of here.
Yeah.
By the garden centre, there's a railway bridge.
Yeah.
And eagle-eyed viewers will note that there's a funny little brick archway that stands by itself in the grass.
There is, yeah.
Right, so that was the original entrance to the Agricultural Showground.
Right.
And in 1895, Sir David Salomons, who was the mayor of Tunbridge Wells, was a huge automotive fan and inventor.
Yeah.
He put on a display called the Horseless Carriage Exhibition at the Agricultural Showground. Yeah. There were 3 cars and a number of fire engines, I believe.
Okay.
And it was widely regarded as the first ever public display of a motor car in the UK. So it's the first motor show.
Yeah.
Now, this year marks the 130th anniversary of that event. Oh, it's important to note as well, the Autocar magazine, which is the oldest established motoring publication in the world, their inaugural issue was a sole report of that event.
Right.
So it's got real history.
Real heritage, yeah.
And we're, the end result of that was David Salomons was so keen on automotive things that Tunbridge Wells became a hub of motoring at the dawn of motoring. So if you look next door where the Royal Springs Apartments are, that was originally a carriage company called A.A. Kundell, and they were connected to the Royal Kentish Hotel across the road, and they would make lavish carriages for horse-drawn carriages. Now, obviously, then when motor cars became started to become produced, they then moved their skills onto coach building and made bodywork for motor cars. The chap who built this building in 1909 was a guy called G. Stevenson, and he worked next door for Kundell, and I guess he must have thought, I'm going to do this myself.
Yeah.
And this whole strip of London Road were all car and motorcycle dealers. I think this showroom was one of the biggest ones. And it was opened in 1909, G. Stevenson Kent and Sussex Garages Limited.
Right.
And it remained Stevenson's well into the 70s. And with the information that I've found out about it, and some of the franchises here pre-war, Chevrolet had a franchise here.
Right.
Chrysler in 1928. Lagonda even in 1922, which is rather cool. And it's if you look on my website under the showroom history section, you'll see I've put together a sort of brief timeline with images, and it's wonderful. I really enjoy. It's an important part of the history of the town.
It's an important part of Tunbridge Wells history, and it's so valid that you're involved in it.
So the show. Yes. So sorry. So to go back to it, right. So in 1911, the Tunbridge Wells Motor Club were formed, and they're still going. Again, one of the oldest established motoring clubs in the world.
Right.
And they put an event on in 1961 on the Pantiles called the Second Horseless Carriage Exhibition, which was a 50th anniversary celebration of the club. And then in 1966, the Third Horseless Carriage Exhibition, which was opened by Donald Campbell about 6 months before his sad demise in Bluebird K7. That's the last time that a car event's been on the Pantiles, as far as we know. So we thought, in light of the 130th anniversary of this important event, we should celebrate this motoring history of the town by putting together the Fourth Horseless Carriage Exhibition, which is effectively done in the style of previous events. We've got Tunbridge Wells Motoring Club involved. We have Octane Magazine as our sort of official media partner, and then 10 exhibitors who are all local specialists. And it will literally be a timeline of cars from
that's amazing.
The dawn of time, dawn of motoring rather, so 1895ish, all the way up through to the 2025 Cadillac LMDH hypercar.
All along the Pantiles?
Upper and lower Pantiles of Jota Motorsport, who are a local team, and they're celebrating their 25th anniversary this year. So the idea is it's a public event, there's no charge, and we want to try and embrace with the public and try and get people of all ages and come along and have a look at the evolution of cars and motorcycles.
Build the awareness of it in Tunbridge Wells. So what date is that again?
That's the 2nd and 3rd of August.
2nd and 3rd of August, okay.
So Saturday and a Sunday. Hopefully we'll have some lovely weather for it, but we anticipate to be very well attended. attended. And on the bandstand, we're going to have Q&A sessions with all the different exhibitors, and they'll talk about what they do, and the public are free to ask questions. And we'd like to sort of embrace everybody in this, and fly the flag, because there's a lot of good things to talk about.
Absolutely. It's going to be a busy weekend down the Pantiles that weekend. So that's going to be publicised all over in the local papers and everywhere, so everyone will know about it, and we'll help shout the word about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be really good. That must be really exciting for you to sort of come and sort of plan that and get behind that. It's
fabulous. I mean, I'm not doing it alone, but doing it with the help of my fiancée Jo.
Yes.
And we're also getting married this year, so she's delighted
congratulations.
that we're adding another event into the calendar.
Yeah.
And then two good friends of mine, Anthony Godin, who's a local car and motorcycle, the classic car and motorcycle dealer, and a friend of ours called Daniel Cogger, who's a local enthusiast too.
Right.
And the four of us are working together to put on this event, and it's kind of spawned really from the research that I've done on the showroom.
Yeah.
Because having not done that, it's sort of all led towards that.
Yeah.
And it's great, so hopefully everyone will embrace it and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. That's going to be a great event. Look out for it. Details a bit on your website as well, is it?
Yeah, we're going to launch the official website soon.
Right. That'll be separate to your website?
Yes, it
right.
will
Okay.
be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your website is dylanmiles.com, isn't it?
Dylan-miles.com.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, if anyone wants to buy a car, but it's not really like that. And in actual fact, you can't come in here and browse, can you?
Well, you can. I mean, we people often say, "Oh, you look like you're closed all the time." It's not the case at all. Like we're always working, but we operate by appointment only, and that's just so we can give people the time that they deserve when they want to come and have a look.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, and obviously we have to travel regularly to source a lot of the cars and bikes that we sell, because they're not things that you come across very easily. So managing, and as I say, it's just my fiancée Jo and I, so we're a small team, so we have to manage our time as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, so you might get a call from, I don't know, California and say, look, I've got this
it
does
happen.
And you've got to go and check it out, make sure that it is what they say it is, and
Yeah.
all that due diligence, I guess, before you represent it.
Well, that's why people come to us. So, one of the things about having lots of clients overseas is that if we get offered something, and they're interested in it, we can then go and vet whatever the car is, make sure it's what it purports to be, and advise them about whether it's the right thing to buy and whether the price is right or not. And we do, we obviously have a selection of inventory in the showroom, but we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So clients will call us and say, I really want a Ferrari F40 or whatever it might be, and we'll go and find the best one that we can that suits their budget. And so it's sort of almost detective work in a way, or matchmaking. But because sometimes somebody will contact us and want a specific vehicle,
right? Okay,
but it may not be the right thing for them. And I'm the opposite of a salesman. I don't the pushy salesman thing's not my. I take a much more consultative approach with it, and advise people about whether actually what they're looking at is right for them, or they might be better suited to something else. Could much rather people be happy with what they buy than and it does most of the time they are, so it's
you sort of become an advisor from your experience through the years of what people
I like that because we're helping people as well, and this is our business, but the people we deal with, it's generally their passion and their hobby, and it should be fun. That's it, and they want they want some proper advice and transparent way of dealing, and that works really well for us. Hence, my business is my name.
Absolutely, you're putting your name above the door, aren't you? That's really important. What's what do you? It must be very fulfilling when you connect those two people to one vehicle. But is that the best bit for you, or what do you like about it the most?
I enjoy the hunt of finding interesting things, because that's great, and I think most people, they enjoy that part of it. So finding something that you think might be special, especially if it's been off the radar for a long time. And then the research part of it, I really geek out on that, because I think it's because it often leads to tangents of other things that you hadn't, and it's great. So it's all information gathering. And then the preparation of the cars, that sometimes it can be a challenge. There's no doubt about that, because old cars can, by their nature, be temperamental. But we work with a lot of very, very good specialists in different fields, and that's fun. And then obviously once you've got the car right and you find a new loving custodian for it, it's really nice putting that together, especially if people have owned something for a long time and finding the next chapter for the people. I get like it. You want
to hand it on to the right person, don't you? The next person. So we try and sort of
people together that's the right fit. And
yeah, because I guess you might come across a real classic, a real blinder, if you like, but it's a little bit substandard in its body or in its engine, or something needs doing, and you've got to bring that up to a beautiful condition for the buyer.
Well, potentially, or if that is the case, then we will sell the car as it is, but the buyer will know exactly what needs doing to it, and the price would reflect.
A bit like when you buy a house, it needs a new roof cover.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. So, or sometimes, an owner might say, actually, well, let's do all these bits to make it to here before you sell it, and that's fine. So we can then manage all of that, and we'll ship bits out depending on what the car is to, and we do it like that. But also some people like buying something they can improve over time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the cars we have in here are all pretty much completely up to date on the servicing, and they all go through a workshop prior to delivery to the new owner anyway, for a final checkover.
Just finally, just tell us what cars are in here. So there's a Ferrari there.
Yeah. So from the back row, so that's a right-hand drive Ferrari 512 Berlinetta Boxer. They made 101 right-hand drives, and that's a factory black car, so it's really rare.
Right.
Really nice condition, 50,000 miles.
How much is that?
That is up for £265,000.
Right, okay.
That flat 12, 380 horsepower, I think. Very fun car to drive.
Yeah.
The next car is super rare, Aston Martin V8 Vantage Zagato. They made 50 of those. That is genuine delivery mileage. It's done 398 miles.
Is that it?
So it's been in a temperature-controlled environment its whole life.
Wow.
And it's waiting for somebody to come along and say, right, I'm going to use this car. It's a fabulous thing to drive.
Yeah,
very, very rare car.
Yeah.
Not that I've driven that one because the mileage is so low, obviously.
Right, no.
The car next to it is a 1988 Aston Martin V8 Vantage, known as an X-Pack. So it's the final series of Vantage cars.
Okay.
They made 137 between 86 and 90. It's a very rare car. That's basically has the same underpinnings as a Zagato,
right.
But with a standard body on it, and that's they call them the brute in a suit. I love those cars. They've got such presence. The car next to it is an earlier 1980 Aston Martin V8 Volante.
Right.
And I know that car very well because my dad used to own it. He bought it, I think, in 87.
Right.
And there's, in fact, up here, somewhere in there's a picture of my twin sister and I sat on the tonneau at Brands Hatch.
That's special to you then.
Yeah, so I think we were 3 years old when that picture was taken.
Okay.
And my dad had it till the mid-90s, sold it, and it went off the radar, and I've been waiting for years for it to come up.
Right.
And then the stars and the moon aligned, and the owner contacted me and said, I've got your dad's old car, do you want to sell it for
Of
me?
course I do, yeah.
So that's a real...
You almost won't want to see it go, perhaps.
No, but I unfortunately I'm not in a position to own it, but it's a wonderful car, and I like the fact that I can be part of its history, and and now the sun's out as well. Someone will I'm sure will snap it up.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And then moving on to the front row, the far corner is Austin Healey 104 with a very special history. It's I think the 25th car ever built, and it was bought new by Castrol Motor Oils.
Oh right, okay.
And it was given as a gift to Derek Rickman, who was Rickman Matisse motocross manufacturer, very, very successful guys. And at the time, he was a rider sponsored by Castrol, as his brother Don was.
Yeah.
And Castrol said, you can both have a new car each. So
Derek
bought the Healey and Don bought the Triumph TR2. Wow. Loads of early history, Goodwood sprints, all sorts of stuff. Great car. That's sold now.
Right.
Then the motorcycle next to it is a 1936 Brough Superior SS100.
Right. It's
the final series of SS100 bikes. So it has a matchless V-twin engine in it. Right. And that's the third one produced. So fully restored. Lovely bike. The Aston Martin by the front door is a car that most people have recognised. It's a DB5, immortalised by James Bond, obviously in Goldfinger. Yeah. That's a fully restored car in Dubonnet Rosso, which is a dark metallic red, original colour. I think we would have probably sold it sooner if it was silver, because people do rather like them in silver. Yeah. But it is the original colour, and that's so that I'm sure will go. Yeah. The car next to it is known as a Lynx Jaguar XKSS, and that is a car that was. Well, again, immortalised by Steve McQueen, who owned one of the original XKSS cars. Yeah. And that was built from a batch of 9 by a local specialist called Chris Keith Lucas, who owned Lynx at the time. Right. Now CKL down in Battle. Right. They'll be at our event, by the way.
Okay.
And they built a batch of 9 cars in the 80s for a list of big Jaguar collectors. And that's one of those cars. Very, very special car.
Right.
The car next to it is a GT40 Mark V, powered by Ford, is the official moniker for it. Oh. So that's a continuation GT40 that was built in the 80s by most of the original engineers that built the cars in the 60s. and raced at Le Mans. Obviously, a Le Mans winning car.
Yeah.
That is one of 40 that was built under licence by Ford.
Right.
Again, very special history. Road registered, it's an awesome car to drive.
Yeah.
You can. It's a great thing. The Jaguar E-Type Roadster next to it.
I recognise that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a V12, and that's been so one of the things that the market has seen today is that there's become a sort of renewed interest in something called resto mods. So people taking older cars and modifying the drivetrains and making them sort of a bit more compatible with modern traffic.
Nice.
So that's got a 6.2 litre V12
Right.
with about 420 horsepower. It's a monster. And the Aston Martin here is a car which is sort of very similar to the one that was in the last Bond film.
It's a Timothy Dalton.
It is, yeah.
Aston,
Look, yeah.
isn't it?
So that's a 1988 V8 fuel injection car, and that's got a 7 litre engine by RS Williams. So that's about 500 brake horsepower. That's a serious car.
Yeah. How much is that?
That is up for £335,000.
Right. Okay. Bargain.
So yeah, that's my.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, thanks for running it through. That's so it just gives people an idea of the caliber of cars that are in here.
Yeah, if you look on the website, and there's a big sold section where you can see the types of stuff that we deal with.
Right.
And if anyone is actively wants something, we're not all about hugely expensive cars,
No.
by the way. For me, the most important thing is quality.
Yes, because you had that BMW in here.
So we've got a 1990 325 BMW, which is 2 owners from new, super well looked after, 67,000 miles. They don't come up like that very often.
Yeah.
And that's a quality car. So, and that we're asking, I think, 19,995.
Right, okay.
So we're not, it's not all
It's not
hugely...
all over 300,000
No,
cars.
not at all. We appreciate cars in all shapes and sizes.
Right,
But
excellent.
quality is the key.
Yeah, good. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for inviting me in.
You're most welcome.
It's been
Thank you.
great talking to you and learning all about it. And please, anyone that wants to go to this event, keep your eye out for details on it because it's going to be a fabulous weekend down the Pantiles.
Thanks very much. We look forward to seeing you all there.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. And we'll see you all for another podcast soon. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.